My name is Abraham Ozer, O-Z-E-R.
Okay, and you are?
Ruth Ozer.
Walter, if I'm on one person and you
I'll
want
go
to
for it,
slow
yeah.
up, you just tell me. I guess, Mr. Ozer, if you would just tell me a little bit of background about when you came to Amalgamated and what it was like.
We came to Amalgamated in April 1950 when Building 8 opened up, and we were one of the first few tenants in this building. And our apartment is 9D, and we've been in 9D since then.
Where did you come from and why did you think that this was a good place
We
to
were
be?
both married. We were married in January 1947, at which time we were able to get a very small 1.5 room apartment in Ocean Hill, Brooklyn, which was the other end of the A-line. At one point, I was always part of a workman circle. We were part members of the workman circle. I went through the workman circle schools from age 5 through 15, public school and high school. But at one time, we applied for a co-op apartment downtown at the co-op. And at one point, Harold Ostroff and Frida, who were old friends of ours, were part of our workman circle branch. And they came to a meeting and they asked us where were we living. And I explained that I applied to downtown. He says, did you apply in the Bronx? And I said, I didn't know they were accepting any applications, but we applied and we were able to get the apartment. Mm-hmm. And we got this 2-bedroom apartment, even though we didn't have any children, in anticipation of a family.
Mrs. Ozer, tell me about what you found when you came here. I'd like to think that you really, that it was coming home. So tell me what it was like.
It was beautiful, beautiful. The parks were impressive. Building was going on. It was not overcrowded. And not only that, we were coming from a room in 2 halves in a very undecorative part of Brooklyn. And I was very anxious to come up and enjoy the cooperative because I had become acquainted with a young lady called Beatrice Simpson. And she was working in the same area I was working at that time. And I knew she was a member of the Workman Circle, but she also told me that she was a member of the co-op. And so I already felt I had a friend. And there was a big difference. And apartments were very difficult to get. The boys had just come back from the Army. And it was amazing that you could get anything at that time. So coming up here was just the right kind of push, the Holy Grail. And we used to come up all the time to see where the building was at.
Tell me about what it was like to raise a family in this neighborhood.
Perfect. Simply one word, perfect.
Well, from the beginning, we became active. I became active in the administration. I remember being a member of the House Committee, and from there the Board of Directors. And I was on the Board of Directors of the Amalgamated and AH Consumers for probably 30 years. And my career really ended when I was president of AH Consumers in the 90s for about 9 years. And then I finally retired, and they grabbed me for the credit union, and I'm on the board of the credit union.
What's your money?
But Ruth became active in a lot of the other activities. At that time, there was a drama club, and they produced some very shows. I remember what was named Sign.
Yeah.
Tell me what the value is of working for the community, of participating on the board, and of doing these kinds of activities?
It's self-esteem. Not only self-esteem, but you feel comfortable. And a case in point, if your child fell or something, the people would ask, who are your parents? Where do you live? Everybody was a cooperator. So I felt safe for my children to live in the community, to spend. And we had charitable organizations, and we would have lunches. And I got into the habit of keeping busy and volunteering. I wasn't as he was, you know, willing to give all nights, but I can't imagine living elsewhere now that we are in our 90s, and I feel safe in this community.
There was a lot of community support for various activities, also interest in various activities. No matter what you were interested, there was a little club for this or a club for that, or just a group that would meet. And from the beginning, we got involved in the community. We felt like cooperators, which unfortunately, a lot of people came here because it was a good deal
Available.
financially. But to us, it was a good deal because it was a community of like-minded people who had very interest. And our children, my both daughters went to 95, and the older one went from 95 to Hunter High School. The other one went to 143 and then LaGuardia High School. So all our activities were really good. We didn't have the good transportation that we have now, the bus transportation, which is very good. And there was no point financially or emotionally or spiritually for us ever wanting to move to the suburbs.
Here's the question, and you really
Yeah.
are right on the edge of the central thing, is that we know that things have changed, we know there are new people, we know people have different considerations than what maybe you had. But the philosophy is there is something that is still there that is the same from when it was founded in whenever it was,
Yes.
all the way up to today. So I'll give you each a
Yes.
chance to respond to
Just
that.
let me
Sure,
say this.
sure.
I call this floor, the 9th floor, the international floor of the Amalgamated. From the time we moved in, there was a percentage of people living here heavily onto the Yiddish, the Jewish group, a white, let's face it. Slowly, I noticed on my floor, they had a black couple, young couple, and the manager, who was Shaviro at the time, when asked us if we would mind if they had the 3-room apartment, if they would give it to this couple. So it was fine, good, because I wanted a variety. I mean, I may not have been the majority, but I wanted.
And so
it
tell me who
started-
else is around.
This is the interesting part. And one, we have Korean. Now,
9B, no, 9A is Russian.
Russian,
9B is Korean. 9C is Latino, or
yes,
is Hispanic.
Latino.
9D,
Dominguez.
we're 9D. 9E
Unknown.
is an unknown.
Her son rather, picks her up for work every day. I don't see
9F,
her.
we have an Eritrean. 9G, that used to be Yetta Hayman, she died recently, so it's empty.
So it was just the two
And
of us.
9H is another Russian.
Another
So we
Russian.
have always had an international group, very fine people, very helpful, very
And what does it say about amalgamated living and the nature of this cooperative, that it's welcoming, that you feel comfortable, that it's, I mean, tell me, what is that?
What, it means that we're living in this world, the changing world. And the changing world is changing colors, styles,
ethnicity.
And especially when it comes to the political side. It's interesting, it's grown from one ethnicity to another.
Hey, let me ask you, so I guess it's made it really interesting, and so even though you're over 90 years old,
It's community, people. I'm a city guy, a people person. We made over 45 or 50 trips to Europe, to every country in Europe. And my main interest was not the scenery and not the hills or the museums. I'm not a museum guy. I love to meet people. And this was a community of different people. And it's strange. I went to Stuyvesant High School in 1933. And what language did I take as a foreign language? Spanish, for no reason at all, because nobody spoke Spanish in New York at that time. Had I known, I would have been a better student, so I can understand.
I know you can, the community. Is there anything else you want to tell me about living in the community or raising the children that we didn't ask
It's
you
the
about?
friends you make. If you put yourself out a little and go, as he said, to one of the activities, it's a pleasure. You meet people, different religion, different age, different outlook, different professions, and I like that.
One of my most best reasons here is it was non-political. Kazin was a smart guy. He said no politics. Even you may have politics individually,
Alison,
but no
go out and
politics in the administration. And that was a great thing. I think that's why the Amalgamated survived.
Would you hold hands?
Huh?
Would you hold hands?
Okay.
There you go, get a little touch out of that. And where's Allison? Did she walk?
Yeah, well, she's went to see who she let in or didn't.
So you have one child, two children?
Two.
Two children.
Allison and Stephanie, my younger daughter, is the musician, and I consider Allison was interested in dance and still is, and Stephanie was the pianist.
Stephanie went to University of
Oh,
Michigan.
and they did one of the important organizations here, we neglected, the nursery school.
Right.
So you have the younger
They went
tots
through the
growing up.
nursery school.
And
They
they're
grew up
delicious.
here. They made friends here, and they still have friends. One of our best friends, Jay Fisher, was our next door neighbor. And I think he's a contemporary of yours, Jay Fisher.
Should be.
Yeah.
Allison, why don't you come
Yeah.
and sit down?
Okay.
You can put your arm around it. There we go. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's good. Lean close so we can hear you a little bit.
Okay. I have to.
You were really proud when it came up. You were
Yeah.
really proud of the fact that they've been here all this time.
Yes.
Just tell me about something about the neighborhood or growing up or knowing that your mom still lives here or anything about it.
Well, one thing that's comforting is knowing that my mother and father still have, in the same place, so I know where to go, but also that they have friends and community here. So I feel, even though I've moved far away and been very far away at times, that there's been people here to sort of look after them and to be in touch with. For me, it's also very exciting to come back and find people that I grew up with are still living here. So there's a sense of continuity, like throughout your life, that you could talk about your childhood and people know you, and then they've seen you at various points growing up. I think one of the greatest gifts that we have is to witness.
You feel protected.
But also you feel part of something. I mean, it's a sense that in a very real way, your life sort of has a meaning or a flow. There's a story from the beginning that's continuing. And we had a reunion here a few years ago because people found each other on the internet all over the country, even out of the country, Israel, and they came back here because it was special. I mean, we had the playground, and we were able to, as children, also wander, in a sense, around the neighborhood without having to be driven to an activity and supervised and like organized sports. We would play in the playground.
What was the first question I asked you? How's your mother?
That was my mom.
Right.
She's okay, by the way.
Right, and I come back
We
home.
interviewed her downstairs earlier today.
You come back and you hear about people. My mother and father also could tell me about some of the people I grew up with because they hear from their
Yes.
parents. So in some sense, I keep, it's like
Your
ties.
mother is a great gal.
Oh, thank you so much. I think we got enough. I mean,
And I want to thank you for coming up and
no problem.
bringing
The
our
video should be
memories back.
ready by the fall, where, you know, there's so much to do, and, but
Where is this gonna be?
we're gonna have DVDs, you'll have it, it'll be on your TV, so
Wonderful.
everybody will get it.
I have
No,
one.
but I mean,
but,
the interview, the comments, is that gonna be
It's
published?
gonna be put on the DVD,
Oh, I see.
so we're gonna, Walter is a wonderful,
the
and
computer.
Walter is an amalgamated artist, because he lives in the
Very
14th
good.
building.
I'm
the
He's an Emmy
computer.
award-winning.
I'm
What is
the
your last
computer
name?
person, so he doesn't know from DVD.
My last name is Garaykoa.
Mhm.
Garay